get in the habit. Before we get to this, let's talk for a moment about how long it takes to form a habit. In a study for University College London, Philip Lely, Cornelia H.M. Van Charsfeld, Henry W. Potts, and Jane Waldock took participants through the process of developing a new healthy eating, drinking, or exercise habit, such as drinking water with lunch or jogging before dinner. They were asked to perform this new behavior based on specific situational cues every day for 84 days. For the majority of the participants, their automaticity increased steadily over the days of the study, supporting the assumption that repeating a behavior in a consistent setting increases automaticity. By the end of the study, they found that it took an average of 66 days for the new behavior to become a habit, though it took individual participants as little as 18 days and as many as 254. It is also widely assumed that breaking a bad habit isn't about ending that habit, but rather about replacing it with a different, more constructive habit. Dr. Elliot Berkman, director of the Social and Affective Neuroscience Laboratory at the University of Oregon, notes it's much easier to start doing something new than to stop doing something habitual without a replacement behavior. That's one reason why smoking cessation aids such as nicotine gum or inhalers tends to be more effective than the nicotine patch. So if the process of starting a new habit such as setting aside time to read every day is fundamentally the same as the process of ending a negative habit such as grabbing those chips every time you pass the pantry, how does it work? As with so many of the things we discuss in this book, motivation plays a key role. Speaking specifically about the effort to break habits, Dr. Thomas G. Plante, adjunct clinical professor of the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science at Stanford University School of Medicine, said it depends on how much you really want to break the habit. Many people are ambivalent. They want to lose weight, but they like the foods they eat. They want to reduce their alcohol consumption, but love their happy hour. They want to stop picking their nails, but it reduces stress for them. So one important issue is how strongly you really want to break the habit in question. Second, how established is a problem habit? It is easier to break a new habit than an old one. Third, what are the consequences of not breaking the habit? Will a partner leave you? Will you lose a job? Will you get sick? Will something really bad happen if you don't change? Quote, habit is either the best of servants or the worst of masters. Nathaniel Emmons. Okay. Dr. B.J. Fogg created the Fogg behavior model for identity the circumstances that need to be present for behavior change to occur. For a target behavior to happen, he notes a person must have sufficient motivation, sufficient ability, and an effective prompt. All three factors must be present at the same instant for the behavior to occur. In other words, you need three things in place in order to develop a habit. You need the desire to do it, since it is exceeding difficult to make habitual anything you really don't want to do. You need the skills to do it, since it's nearly impossible to make a habit out of anything you don't have the capacity to accomplish, and you need something to get the habits loop started. What James Clear and others refers to the cue. Let's look at each element in turn. Motivation. We've talked about motivation already, but it's worth resisting the subject here to see it from Fogg's perspectives. Fogg identifies three key motivators. 1. Pleasure pain. This is the most immediate behavior. In this case, the behavior has nearly immediate payoff, positive or negative. I believe pleasure pain is a primitive response, says Fogg, and it functions adaptively in hunger, sex, and other activities related to self-preservation and the propagation of our genes. 2. Hope, fear. Unlike the immediacy of the previous motivator, this one is all about anticipation. When you're hopeful, you're anticipating something good happening. When you're fearful, you're anticipating the opposite. This dimension is at times more powerful than pleasure pain, as is evidenced in everyday behavior. Fogg notes, for example, in some situations, people will accept pain of flu shot in order to overcome fear, anticipation of getting the flu. 3. Social acceptance rejection. Humans have always desired to be accepted by their peers, dating back to the times when being ostracized could mean a death sentence, and this remains an extremely strong motivator. The power of more social motivation is likely hardwired into us and perhaps all other creatures that historically depended on living in groups to survive. Ability. Fogg equates ability with simplicity, nothing that when something is simple for us, we are considerably more likely to do it. He defines 6 categories of simplicity. 1. Time. We only perceive something to be simple if we have the time available to perform the function. 2. Money. Similarly, if something stretches our financial resources, we do not consider it simple. We do not consider it simple. 3. Physical effort. We consider things that are physically easy for us to be simple. 4. Brain cycles. Simple things don't tax our thinking, and we shy away from things that require us to think too hard. 5. Social deviance. This goes back to the acceptance motivation. A simple act fits into societal norms. 6. Non-routine. How far something is out of one's normal routine will define its level of simplicity. Prompts. Finally, Fogg notes 3 types of prompts. 1. Spark. A spark is a type of prompts. Finally, Fogg notes 3 types of prompts. 1. Spark. A spark is a type of prompt that immediately leads to a form of motivation. For example, if opening your email leads to a level of fear over what you might find there, you're likely to adopt a habit that will change that fear. 2. Facilitator. This type of prompt works when motivation is high but ability is low. For example, if you want to use a certain kind of software on your computer but are tech averse, a tool that makes the software easier for you to use is likely to cause you to adopt this behavior. 3. Signal. In some cases, you'll have both high motivation and high ability. The only other thing you need to make a behavior a habit is some kind of reminder or signal. If you love making blend smoothies, all you need is to walk into your kitchen in the morning and see the blender to prompt you to make one. Creating a new habit. The Fogg behavior model shows us everything that needs to be in place for a particular behavior to become a habit. We know that making habits of behavior we consider good for us is important to our growth. And we also know that the key to breaking bad habits is to replace them with more constructive ones. But how do you make something a habit? Just remember, win. W is for want. Make sure you really want it. It's nearly impossible to turn something into a habit if you don't want to do that thing. Does one of the motivators in the Fogg model apply to the habit you're trying to adopt? If not, is there something close to this habit that might accomplish something similar for you? I is for innate. Does the new habit you are trying to adopt align well with your innate abilities? Remember that you are unlikely to make something a habit when it is consistently difficult for you to perform. If the habit you're trying to adopt is something that you are good at or you know you can be good at, you're well on your way. N is for now. Create a prompt for yourself that encourages you to perform the new habit now. This can be anything from a reminder on your phone to replacing something in your office that makes you remember to set aside time to do what you're setting out to do. Growing your life one habit at a time. In case you're still wondering how much of an impact establishing good habits can have on your life, let me share a story about one of our clients. Xiang suffered from schizophrenia and depression. He often heard voices telling him to hurt himself or others, and he endured several stints in psychiatric wards because of this. After finding the right medication and emerging from his latest round of treatment, he discovered my podcast and learned some of the tactics that I teach in my school. He started listening on a regular basis and participate in the quick challenge, a series of exercises I take people through to introduce novelty to their thinking and therefore keep their brains tuned for learning. At first, this was hard for Xiang, but he focused on doing just 2 particular challenges: brushing his teeth with his opposite hand and taking a cold shower every morning. He increased his time under the cold water by 1 minute each week, and in doing so discovered that being able to do something hard like standing under freezing cold water for several minutes each morning made him realize that there were areas in his life in which he was fighting for his limitations. Building from these quick challenges experiences, he started applying what he was learning about habits and behavior change to other areas. Xiang's life improved dramatically. He took his driver's license and passed. He changed his diet, cut out sugary drinks, and started taking a 5-minute jog in the park every morning. He started reading books, in the first being Mindset by Carol Dweck. As he read, he listened to the better quick music to pace his reading and distract himself from hallucinations. It took him a month to finish the book, but when he did, he felt a sense of confidence he had never had before. Trips to the library became a regular thing. Xiang has even taken his learning to the next level and enrolled in computer science classes at a local college. And the best part is that He now believes he is a lifelong learner. You may think that because of all your past failed attempts to change your habits and routines, you're doomed to failure forever. Xiang's story shows that by changing just one or two small habits in your day, incredible progress can follow. Something as simple as brushing your teeth with the opposite hand can be the start of an entirely new way of life. Tomorrow, establishing a morning routine. So that's it, guys. Hasta la vista.